Dr. Cuong is from the Vietnam National Institute of Educational Science. And he is the president of Scientific Councils of Vietnam National Institute of Educational Sciences, the MOD. Dr. Cuong received his doctoral of philosophy, the Ph.D. in education from Flinders University. His appointment include the head of classroom assessment sectors, research divisions on educational assessments at the ministry, the MOED, from 2013 to 2015. There are 11 pages of lists of Dr. Cuong experience, publications, and presentation in international seminar, which I'm not going to read them one by one for obvious reason that we have a limited time. But now, Dr. Cuong, we are looking forward to your presentations. Please.
Yeah, thank you. Now I will share my screen before I. Yeah, can you hear me clearly?
Sure, yes.
Yeah, and can you see my screen?
Yes, crystal.
Yeah, okay, okay, thank you. Yeah, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So today it's a great honor to be here to introduce you some issues about the educational assessment in Vietnam. Yeah, about some information about myself. I think you already know about that. And my recent interest in focus on the mathematics education and the educational management and assessment. The presentation I share to you today, I want to briefly introduce you about the Vietnam education system, and especially for the Vietnam educational assessment system. After that, I raised some issues about the assessment in the new curriculum and some our current work. Finally, I will raise some challenges we face at the moment when we implement the assessment in the new curriculum. In terms of the education system, in this diagram, you can see we have the education level, different level of education from the kindergarten to the Ph.D. training. My area focused on the assessment for the general education level only. So this part is where I focusing on. So we have the kindergarten, nursery, we have the primary, lower secondary from the grade 6 to grade 9, and we have the upper secondary for the grade 10 to grade 12. So, most of my research focused on the primary level, lower and upper secondary education level. So in terms of the educational assessment system, we, from our perspective, we can divide the educational assessment system into 3 different components. The first one is the classroom assessment. So with the classroom assessment, we have many guidelines from the Ministry of Education and Training, and some department of education and training also have some guidelines for teachers to implement the classroom assessment. So in those guidelines, we have different methods like the observation, like the testing, like portfolio, like self-assessment. And we also have the clearly indicated for the formative assessment and summative assessment. So that's for the first one, the first component related to the classroom assessment. The second one is the exam. In terms of the exam in Vietnam, we have for grade 5, grade 9, and grade 12. So this is the grade when they finish one education level. But with the grade 12, at the moment we have the national examination, and they develop the standardized test with the grade 5 and grade 9 controlled by and managed by the Department of Education and Training. And some private schools, they just develop the test by themselves. And with the exams, we have different subjects. It depends on the grade and the year we implement it. The third component here is the last scale assessment. So in terms of the last scale assessment, in Vietnam, we have the national assessment for grade 5. In the last 10 years, we implemented the national assessment for grade 5, grade 9, and grade 12. And some year we implemented for the grade 11 instead of the grade 12 because of their examination. With the AC, I also have the opportunity to work with the ACER Melbourne for the grade 5 national assessment in 2012 and 13. And in the last scale assessment, especially for the national assessment, we apply the psychometric theories like the item response theory for the analysis. And we also have some other statistical analysis techniques for these assessment. We also participated in some international assessment, such as PISA, PASEC, or TALIS, ANLAS, or CPLM. And with these international assessment or regional assessment, we participated at like as a member of these assessment. So now I would like to move on to the assessment in the new curriculums and our current work for these issues. So in 2018, the Ministry of Education and Training issues the new curriculums. So this is the structure of the curriculums, and these curriculums declare that we develop these curriculums based on the competencies approach. It means we changed from the old curriculums in 2006 when we develop it based on the content mostly. So the structure of the new curriculums here, we have 14 content areas, and we have 3 general competencies. We have 5 characters, and we have 7 specific competency related to the content areas. So with these things, we have the we call that standards for the content areas, where we put the learning outcomes or the standards for each grade, and with the competencies we just propose the framework for each competency when students finish each education level. I mean, when students finish the primary education level, the lower secondary and the upper secondary level. So that's put us on the situation where we declare that we will use the competency-based assessment, not content-based assessment. So at the moment, the Ministry of Education, we are working on the project from the Ministry of Education and Training, where we have to connect the content areas where we have for each grade, like from grade 1 to grade 12, and the competencies in the curriculum, where it just have the framework for students when they finish its education level. So with this approach, we just try to connect all the skills for the competencies frameworks to the outcomes from the domains for each grade. And this one we call that the standards, and it's connect between the content and the requirement or the skills from the competencies. So hopefully in October we can share with you some results from this project. And after we finish all of this process to develop these standards, we design the instrument to measure all of these standards, and it will help teachers for teaching and assessing student learning outcomes. And hopefully we will share with you in October. So some challenges at the moment when we implement the new curriculums, and I will follow the challenges based on the three components of the educational assessment system. The first thing is in terms of the classroom assessment. So I think as I mentioned before, the new curriculum have the new approach, especially when we declare that we develop the curriculums based on the competency approach. So it means in the curriculums we stated that during their teachers need to help students develop 10 key competencies we declare in the curriculums. But the thing is, at the moment we don't even we have the training, we have the training program, we have the professional development programs to have teachers to understand. But because this curriculum just start in 2018, so we have so much work to do at the moment to try to help teachers understand the new curriculums and how to implement the teachings and assessment within the classroom. So, and another thing is we also try to help them connect the formative assessment and summative assessment. And like Dr. Chang shared with you before, we also focus more on the assessment for learning and assessment as learning instead of the assessment of learning. But at the moment, it's the hard job for us, and we try to, especially we try to help the teachers to do so. The second component is the examination. So because we changed from the old curriculum to the new curriculum, so at the moment we also try to identify the forms of assessment or methods, and especially the instruments, because as I mentioned before, even we declare that we use the standardized test for the examination, but there are so many things else to have to improve to have the instruments for the examination, and especially when students finish their general education level at grade 12, and how we can confirm their learning when they finish the general education level. In terms of the large scale assessment, because we changed from the old curriculum to the new curriculum, so at the moment we we also need to develop the new frameworks for the national assessment. We and one of the things we're focusing on at the moment is how we can connect the result, or we use the results to innovate or to help teachers and students in terms of the teaching and learning. And it especially how we use all those information from the national assessment for the policy changes in terms of the education system. And even we participated in many different international assessment. However, we also, at the moment, we also working on how we can choose the international assessment program for Vietnam and all those stuff, and how to connect all the results from the international to make the useful information in terms of the using the data, using the information to help to support teaching and learning and improve the education quality. So that the challenges for each component at the moment we face for each component. So within 15 minutes, like the ACI Indonesia gave me, hopefully I give you some brief information, and I happy to answer any questions you may have. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Cuong, and for the very interesting presentations. I understand that you, Dr. Cuong, as we listen, start with the differentiating between classroom assessment, exam, and large-scale testing, each with esse challenges, and also addressing the new curriculum, which is moving toward not just content, but content, general competency, specific competency, and characters. And along with this, also moving toward competency-based assessment. And Dr. Cuong also mentioned some challenges among others is the competency-based assessment, because the curriculum is just a new curriculum is just started in 2018. There's still many works to be done. Another challenge is to connect the formative assessment into a summative assessment, and also how to use the result of the large-scale testing, including international assessment for teachers and for learning in relations to the policy changes. Very interesting, and thank you, Dr. Xuan,